When I was a sophomore, I thought accounting was a safe route, but deep down, I wanted the upside of finance or consulting roles. The problem, I had no experience, no connections, and no idea how to break in from a non-target school. Here's how I figured it out and how my students are doing the same today. When I started college, I strongly considered adding an accounting major to my plan. It seemed like such a solid safety net. There was a shortage of accountants. The path was fairly well defined. You just take 150 credits and sit for the CPA exams, grind out a couple of years at a Big Four, and maybe exit into a finance role. I did well in my financial and managerial accounting courses. The numbers came easy. It made sense to me, and I was decent at it, but it just wasn't really what I wanted out of a career. If you're in that same place, stuck deciding between some other industry and finance, but not sure how to explore either, I've got a resource that can help. I created a free set of cold outreach scripts that helped me start real conversations with alumni and professionals when I was just figuring things out. It'll be in the first link in the description below. I went to a couple of accounting club meetings at my university, but ended up finding myself attending the finance and investing club meetings far more frequently. I had a handful of conversations with people at Big Four firms who were recruiting for tax and audit positions, and it never really sparked anything inside of me. Not like the way personal finance, investing, and learning about the markets ever did. And so while the perceived safety and stability of an accounting career really drew me and tried to keep me there, I ended up abandoning that goal and really started shifting my sights towards breaking into finance and consulting. More of the glamorous types of high finance roles where you're client facing, you get to travel, you're not just sitting in the back office doing paperwork and running numbers all the time. Obviously, in an early career role as a young analyst, you're going to be doing a lot of data entry and working with Excel sheets, but having that opportunity for your trajectory to be focused towards something that was more client facing is something that I really wanted. The human interaction of actually being able to talk to people as part of your job and present and build relationships with people and solve their problems, that is something that I really wanted from my career. And that's why I really ended up targeting high finance roles. Personally, I believe that it's a wise decision to test out these careers as best you can and with as low risk as you can early on, so then you can make an informed decision, especially when you're talking about something as crucial as maybe a first job out of college or how you're recruiting for internships that could set you up for a full-time job out of college. It's like tasting the sauce before you serve the whole dish. You wouldn't want to dive headfirst into an accounting career when you've never even sat down or seen what that job entails outside of what goes on inside the classroom, which is not an accurate depiction of what the real job is anyways. So a low risk, low commitment way to taste the sauce before you serve the dish is by joining student organizations. It's very low commitment. You only have to spend an hour or so each week to attend the meetings, and you can really start to get a feel from and even hear from guest speakers who are brought in who are actually doing these jobs and learn and listen to what they're talking about their day to day, right? If you are listening to somebody and you're hearing them talk about going through all of the new changes in regulations to accounting laws and then preparing tax filings day in and day out during a busy season, that doesn't sound appealing to you. Why would you want to venture into that career without even knowing what's on the other side? And with these student organizations, there's opportunities throughout the semester to taste test the career. Say you're in an accounting club, there's probably opportunities to volunteer to do people's tax returns and, have guest speakers come in and listen to them because they're actually doing the jobs that you're gunning for. On the flip side of the same coin, if you're joining finance and consulting clubs as well at the same time, you're exposing yourself to that industry and opportunities to work on real consulting engagements with local companies who just need pro bono work, or you're doing stock pitches and doing equity research with your peers and pitching in front of the entire investment fund. All of these are opportunities to try out the career that is to come, and a good litmus test to figure out which path to pursue is to evaluate how you spend your time at these clubs. Do you end up skipping the accounting club and showing up day in and day out for the finance club like I did? Or do you find yourself getting bored when you're sitting there listening to a guest speaker in the accounting student organization, but fired up when somebody from Wall Street comes in to speak to the investment club? These should be clear signs that you should be starting to take some steps in the direction that you're getting some positive feedback from, instead of just going through the motions of, showing up to the club just because you're part of it. And there's something to be said, obviously, that if you continue to do something over and over and over again, you can learn to love it. But why not instead just chase what makes you passionate, chase what fuels your fire? I think a very real reason why people choose not to pursue that path that really excites them and lights them up is because it's more risky, it's more uncertain, it's more unknown, it's more competitive. It's harder to get into these roles because so many people want that same seat. And so the next step in the recipe is really how you start differentiating yourself from all those other people who want that same seat, and also continue to learn more about the industry that you're getting yourself into and whether or not you want to be there in the first place. You can scrub Google and Reddit and watch as many YouTube videos as you want to try to figure out what people are actually doing in their jobs and doing in their day-to-day. But networking and hands-on experience via these student organizations where you can actually participate in real projects, that is how you truly get an understanding of what you're getting yourself into when it comes to these careers. And I want to emphasize that it's not just showing up and participating at these student organizations. You actually have to get involved. It's not attending the weekly meetings, sitting in the very back, having your AirPods in, scrolling on Instagram or TikTok, or shopping on Amazon while the lecture or the meeting is going on. It's actively engaging, being an active participant in the discussions, raising your hands, asking questions, engaging with the panelists or the speakers, and actually doing work outside of what is required in the student organization. That is really how you're going to maximize the experience that you're going to get out of joining a student organization and really taking advantage, full advantage of those opportunities that are presented to you. I think one of the biggest mistakes that students make when choosing a path is just defaulting to what feels like the safest, most comfortable option. Especially if you choose this path without even exploring other alternatives, I think you're really doing yourself a disservice by not uncovering what your potential could be in other areas. If you're interviewing and applying for roles in accounting that just bore the hell out of you, when you sit down in an interview with a recruiter, they're gonna easily tell, like, hey, this person is just sitting here because they want this job. There's no other real reason why they're sitting in front of me asking for this internship, asking for this position. As opposed to if you go and pursue a path or a career that actually excites you, that actually is aligned with what you want to be doing and contributing to the world, you're going to come into that interview with a different energy, and it's going to be distinguishable from those who are just there because their parents wanted them to do this, or because it seems like a safe and stable career following graduation with not much work. And so I think the saying, only a fool learns from his mistakes, a wise man learns from the mistakes of others, is relevant in this case, because yes, you could go spend 4 years in public accounting to figure out, hey, maybe I didn't like this, and you wake up wondering how you got into the spot where you're doing things that you don't want to be doing in the first place. That is the way that a fool approaches his career. Instead, you can shortcut this approach by learning from the mistakes of others and speaking to people who have done the jobs that you're considering doing. That is learning from the mistakes of others, and not necessarily saying that they made a mistake by joining a career that might not be aligned with what you want, but you can learn from their experiences at the very least to hear, hey, does what they're talking about sound like something I actually want to be doing? Or would I be hating my life if I woke up every single day having to repeat the same thing over and over again? I think this is particularly helpful if you're coming from a non-target school. The perspective you gain while speaking to alumni or just professionals who are in the industry you're trying to pursue will greatly color how you approach internship recruiting seasons, where you're expending your energy. Because if you end up spending all your time applying to every single role that's out there because your interests are so broad and so varied, like, yeah, I'm interested in data science and also interested in wealth management and consulting and investment banking. Like, I don't know which one to choose. If you're in that spot, especially coming from a target school, the longer you delay your decision of what you want to do, the worse off you're going to be in terms of the recruiting cycle. And the solution isn't to just make a snap decision and a snap judgment to choose a path that you might not even know if you want to do. The way to do that and make an informed decision is to take these steps of joining student organizations, getting some real world experience before even an internship in a low risk, low commitment setting like a club, and also speaking to people, doing outreach, networking, talking to people who are in the roles that you are considering. Yes, you might think, hey, data science sounds cool, pre-law sounds cool, investment banking sounds cool, but until you talk to people or experience it for yourself, you're not going to be able to make a rational decision, especially one that can be shaped through the actions that you take throughout your years in college. I don't think it's realistic to expect to have 5 internships in one semester so that you can test out your interests in data science, pre-law, investment banking, wealth management. You'll never be able to do that. And the way to do this and get all those different experiences and piece them all together and digest them into your own conclusion of what you're going to do with the rest of your college career, not saying that you can't pivot, but the way to synthesize all that information and get it in a short amount of time is to speak to people who are already doing the roles and then consider for yourself if it's something that you want to be doing. When I finally started talking to people actually working in these roles, that's when everything changed. So if you're unsure which path is for you, don't guess. Talk to people. I break down exactly how I used outreach to figure it out in this next video here. Let's cook. I'll see you over there.